Hello everyone, and welcome to The Mortuary. I am the Mortician. And today I have just some movies that I wanted to recommend to you guys that you should watch during October. Now, I have quite a lot here. How many do I have here exactly? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 movies. That it just worked out that way. I didn't pick 10. That's why I had to count them right now. So that's kind of weird. So here's my top 10 movies you should watch for October. So we can basically nail the first three right off the bat. The Evil Dead trilogy, Evil Dead 1, 2, and Army of Darkness. Evil Dead 1 and 2 are probably some of the best horror films you could ever watch, horror comedy films you should ever watch. Basically, Evil Dead 1 follows a dude, his name is Ash. He goes to a cabin with a bunch of his friends, and they find the Book of the Dead, and they unleash Kandarian demons from hell, and they're possessing everyone, and he's got to survive. Really good. There's a reason why this movie is loved so much. It has a charm like no other film, and it's just absolutely awesome. Love it. The second one is less of a horror film and more of a comedy film, actually. And it's actually, in my opinion, slightly better than the first Evil Dead because of the fact that it knows what it is, and it just goes full bore into that realm and does such a great job of it. It is an absolutely awesome film. The only thing I find weird about the second Evil Dead is that they completely changed the story from 1. So in 1, basically it's him, his sister Cheryl, I think his girlfriend's name is Linda, one other dude and his girlfriend. I don't know why I can't remember their names. I literally just watched it yesterday. But in the second one, it was just him and his girlfriend Linda who went up to the cabin. And once again, all hell breaks loose. So I have no idea why they changed that. They could have probably kept the story going from the first, but they didn't. I've heard the one thing I've heard, which seems could be plausible, is that what happened was they changed companies or something, and they just couldn't get the rights for it for the first plot. Which it sounds really weird, but that's just what my friend said to me. I don't think that's true. I just think it was a case where they feel like it would work better if there were just only 2 of them in the cabin as opposed to 5 or whatever. And of course, Army of Darkness. Army of Darkness. A lot of people who are familiar with the Evil Dead movies are probably like, "Why Army of Darkness?" And the reason they would say that is because Army of Darkness isn't exactly a horror film. It's more like Evil Dead Dungeons and Dragons, which, despite that, it's still a good film and you should still watch it because at the end of 2, it hints at Army of Darkness. So you should watch it just to complete the trilogy. If you don't like it, you don't, but at least you've watched it. But I enjoy it, and I feel like there are a lot of people who enjoy it. It's a good film. Ash really turns into the one-liner machine we know him as now in Army of Darkness. So if you like Ash vs. Evil Dead and all the one-liners he slings, you're probably going to love Army of Darkness, because this is the film that made him the one-liner machine that we know him as today. So definitely watch those 3 films. Don't pay attention to critics who say you might not like the third one. Just try it. It's the Ash that you know now. So, that said, I was going to put The Exorcist on here. But I feel like everyone has seen The Exorcist. Like, everyone's seen the first Exorcist. So there's no reason for me to put it on here again. Just so people can watch it again. So I went with probably my favorite entry into the Exorcist films, and that is Exorcist 3. If you're not familiar with the Exorcist 3, basically it picks up where the first one left off. It follows, I think his name is I can't remember the cop's name for some reason, but you follow the police officer from the first movie. He's basically trying to piece together a bunch of murders that are happening, and it's really awesome because it's more psychological than the first, actually, because a lot of it seems like is subtle horror. It's a lot of what you don't see. It is oftentimes the most scary things about this film, which is why I really like it. The acting is absolutely amazing, actually. The cinematography, pretty much everything about this film is just as good, if not slightly better than the first. So if you really, really liked the first, you're probably going to love Exorcist 3, because that was my experience. Why did I skip 2, though? 2 was a pile of ass, and no one should watch it under any circumstance, and we're going to leave it at that. So definitely check out The Exorcist 3. If The Exorcist is on your list, definitely check this one out. Definitely check out The Exorcist 3. Next, we have a foreign film, and that is Ringu. This is actually one of my favorite foreign films ever. I don't watch many foreign films, to be honest with you. I've watched Tag, which I really didn't like. Watched Battle Royale, but that's not... I mean, it's kind of a horror... It's more of a thriller than a horror film. But Battle Royale was really good. I've watched Ju-On. I've watched The Audition. I watched Wreck, which was really good. But I don't own any of those films. But I do own Ringu, and there's a reason for that. I absolutely love the idea of this ghost coming out for basically being a chain letter, is how this ghost works. Is basically, if you watch the tape, this ghost will come out of the TV and fucking kill you in 7 days. It's really, really awesome. It's a pretty good story, and I really do get into the characters here. But my version is subs only, which is fine because I probably wouldn't have watched it dubbed, because I watched Ju-On dubbed, which is the original Grudge, and it just turned the whole thing into a comedy movie. It was hilarious. But definitely watch this. And if you watch Ringu, you must watch it subbed. That is my opinion. Someone will probably make the case that I'm being a purist or whatever, but just trust me, you don't want to watch, like, anime is different, but if you watch a foreign film of any kind, be it Japanese, be it Spanish, be it, Chinese, whatever, just do yourself the favor, watch it subbed. So, yeah. Next, there are 4 films here. I've only seen 1, because the other 3 are kind of spaced out. If you'll know what I'm talking about. The Angry Video Game Nerd actually talks about this. But we have The Horror of Dracula. This is the Hammer film. This is the Christopher Lee Dracula. I've watched I think it was 1931 Dracula. Actually, I have Bram Stoker's in the closet, which that's on my watch list for October. If you guys watched the Flea Market video, you know that. But Horror of Dracula, in my opinion, is a lot better than the 1931 release of Dracula. For starters, it's a lot more gory, which actually I was surprised, because I think this film came out in like the 50s. Usually there's a... I don't think I can find it, but I think it actually came out in like 54 or something like that, or the 60s. And for the amount of blood that's in it, it's actually surprising. And it's actually more scary than the Dracula from the Bela Lugosi Dracula film. A lot of the Bela Lugosi Dracula film was him staring like blankly into the camera or whatever, but this, Christopher Lee actually does stuff in this version of Dracula. I also like the portrayal of Dr. Van Helsing a lot more. I feel like he's a more important piece of the story than in the original Dracula. So overall, I would pick this one over the 1931 one. But it's just a matter of preference. I say put this on your watch list. Grab it if you can find it, or watch it however way you can. And just watch both if you really want to. But this is my favorite, and this is my list, so this goes on here. Next, you have to watch this film on October 30th. You have to watch this film on October 30th. You cannot watch it the 31st. You can't watch it any other day but the 30th. Why do I say that? Because it's The fucking Crow. If you're not familiar with The Crow, this is basically, this is the last thing Brandon Lee ever did. But this film actually takes place on Devil's Night, which is actually October 30th. It's the day before Halloween, where all hell breaks loose. And, basically the story is that this guy, Brandon Lee, I can't remember his name, but we'll call him The Crow, obviously. He dies, he gets thrown out a window, his wife is raped and killed. And he comes back from the grave seeking revenge. And it's an absolutely awesome portrayal. I really like the villain. I really liked all the characters in it. They did a really, really awesome job on this film. The soundtrack is really good as well. I think there's only one song that I felt was a little bit out of place, but in general, it's a really, really awesome film and worth watching on October 30th. It's worth watching on October 30th. October 30th. Alright? Next, we have a Rob Zombie film. No, it is not that abomination that was the Halloween reboot. We have House of a Thousand Corpses. I really like this film. If you've ever seen this, this is kind of, I want to call it almost a parody of horror films. And the reason I say that is because the four people who get caught up in the Firefly Clan's bullshit are just some of the most unlikable people imaginable. And they do that on purpose. It's like a full-blown caricature of what horror film teens are. And it's really, really good. There are some really nice effects and really, really interesting scenes. It's really awesome. I think it's the only Rob Zombie film. Well, actually, it does have a rape scene, but it's so quick. It's like over. It's like taking off a Band-Aid or whatever. So it's, I guess you could say it's tastefully done. But overall, it's a really good film. I would have put The Devil's Rejects on here, but I feel like The Devil's Rejects is an exploitation film, not a horror film, and this one definitely is more of a horror film. Definitely check this out. I actually got, I don't know if there's anything to show in here. Yeah, there's some pretty cool art on the inside. Actually, I think this is one of the last things I bought from Movie Stop, so kind of sad, but very, very good movie. Most people have probably already seen this, but I figured I'd talk about it anyway because it is a really good film. Next, we have this movie. I literally didn't even know existed until my friend told me about it. Like, I had no idea. I love H.P. Lovecraft. I actually have a book of all his like short stories and whatnot. I liked Call of Cthulhu: Dark Corners of the Earth. And I never heard of this film until my friend brought it up, and I'm so glad he brought it up because I really enjoy this. And if you like H.P. Lovecraft, you'll probably really like this film. And that film is Dagon. Dagon is actually, I think it's the story of Shadow over Innsmouth. Basically, these people get shipwrecked out in the ocean or whatever. They go to this town, and everything is trippy. Like, you got, like, fish people and just a cult who sacrifices people to Dagon. They throw them into this big, what looks like a deep, deep well. It's a really awesome movie. There's some really, actually, one of the most, probably, I don't know if I call it the most disturbing scene in a horror film, but there's a really awesome scene in this where this old dude and the main character is trapped and they're actually captured, I should say, not trapped, but they're captured. And what happens while they're captured is so fucking cool and sick. It's awesome. I definitely recommend you see this film. If any film you take out of this, it should be Dagon, because I think it is slept on too much. I think it's an awesome movie. You can watch it during Halloween. You can watch it during summer. Is actually a really good time to watch it, and even just any time during the fall. It's just a good all-around horror film where you should definitely watch it around Halloween. And lastly, we have Pet Sematary, Stephen King's Pet Sematary. If you're not familiar with Pet Sematary, this is basically, I mean, I can't think of too many people who haven't read the story. I think it was based on a story. I've definitely heard about this film, at least. Basically, it's about a kid who gets hit by a car and gets resurrected through an Indian burial site. And when he comes out, he's basically a monster. I love this film for a lot of reasons. There are really good, I would say there's a lot of good acting. A lot of good acting, that doesn't make any sense. The acting is pretty good. There are some scenes that are iffy, like the funeral scene is definitely honed in a lot, but either way, I still find it enjoyable. And the kid is just creepy. Like, it's the only thing movie I watch where I'm actually genuinely creeped out by a kid and not annoyed. Is typically when people think of child actors, they're really annoying. Even like Damien in The Omen, I find incredibly annoying. But this kid actually does a really good job, in my opinion. I actually did find him, as an idea, creepy. Yeah. There are some honorable mentions. I should say, there's some honorable mentions. One being The Shining, and the other being The Thing. Why didn't I pick these two films? These are some of the best films that I own, is The Shining and The Thing. Why didn't I pick those? The reason I didn't pick either of those is because typically I watch those all throughout winter. But that being said, if you can get your hands on them and want to watch them for Halloween, I definitely recommend you do. They are great films to be watched whenever. It's just that I feel when I want to watch those, I watch them during the winter, especially on snowy nights. And those would probably be the only honorable mentions. I mean, other than that, this list is pretty complete. You should have some stuff, maybe not for every day, but you should have some stuff to at least start a list of your own. And if you do, please tell me what movies you would add or take away from this down in the comments. So, thank you guys for watching. Mortician, peace out.